Coming up on the Modern Dealer Podcast, David and I are joined by Phil Larrick, and we're talking fixed operations, how hard is it to get floor mats anyways, accessories in the sales process, and assisted conversions in Google Analytics. All that and more on this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. Welcome in to episode 029 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice, and with me, as always, is David Bertoncini. How you doing, David?
I'm good, man. I'm doing really well today. I forgot for a split second what episode we were on. I can't believe it's 029. Yep. I mean, next week's going to be 30, and I'll be up in Tennessee previously to 31, but it's just time's incredible. Flying, man.
January 2020. So I just came off of, as we discussed last week, my 50th birthday weekend. I spent a little bit of time in Universal. Went to the parks there with my wife. It was a very enjoyable time. I actually took yesterday off, so I was traveling back. So coming back into the office today, getting caught up, getting prepared for a very special Modern Dealer Podcast today.
Well, David, you don't look a day over 40, man. Just to let you know, I know it was a big 5-0, but you look great, man. And it's just like when we age, sometimes it just hits us all in like 1 year. Because I remember like watching my mom was like fine, 40s, 50s, like 62, like all of a sudden overnight she aged.
Oh, yeah,
I was like,
I think a lot of it has to do with state of mind too. You know, when we were growing up, we think about people that were 55, 60 as ancient, as old, and maybe people in their teens and their 20s think that today. But sure. I certainly don't feel like I thought I would feel like at 50 for sure.
So good stuff. But yeah, so 029, and we're at this episode, and if this is the first time you've caught the Modern Dealer Podcast, you are in for a treat. If it is, like I said, the first time, then please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on notifications on YouTube.
Ding!
So when you turn all that on there and you get the latest and greatest content, we do put out content once a week. So we're on iTunes, YouTube, every platform you can possibly find us on. We live there just for you as our viewer. But today...
actually, that brings up a good point. So if you do subscribe and turn on notifications on YouTube, you're only going to be notified when we put out a new episode. We keep the Modern Dealer Podcast channel just to our episodes. So we're in episode 29. We only have 29 videos on there. You'll get a notification once a week when the video comes out. We try really hard to have our content come out on Thursdays, and I think we've been pretty successful, and we're in a pretty good rhythm. So we're recording this today on a Tuesday, and we do have a special guest with us live via a Zoom meeting. And do me a favor, David, let us know who is joining us today.
This is one of the absolute best I've seen in the business. I'm being a vendor to the business. I deal with a lot of dealerships, GMs. I deal with a lot of service and parts managers. And as far as some of the parts managers and stuff I dealt with, this gentleman here is one of the absolute best. He is the parts manager with Sunset Cadillac in Venice, Florida, and his name is Mr. Phil Larrick. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me on today. David, you honor me far too much. I don't think I've ever had anybody, sales, current or past, who has ever said anything nice, let alone such amazing nice things.
Oh, man. But, here's the thing. I speak the truth because, it's just an interaction of people. I mean, take our titles aside and just put us on the street. Just a good dude, man. You're just a good guy, an AGG, all-around good guy. You know what I mean?
I try. There's way too much negativity in fixed operations to not be a good person, so you just got to try to perpetuate the positivity.
Gotcha.
So we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us. We're very excited to hear about what your background is. And what's cool about this, David, is it's kind of a different perspective than we've had on the Modern Dealer Podcast so far. We've only had people from the variable operations side. And we actually talked about that last week's episode about really where our main focus is. And it really is where we've lived in automotive, and that is variable operations, sales, and F&I. And, even though I've spent 20, 30 years in automotive, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in fixed operations. And it seems in most dealerships, there is a great divide between fixed and variables, or fixed and variable operations. And I think that that's something that we can kind of explore today, is why there is a divide. Even though we've spent, I think an average salesperson manager will spend, 12 hours a day at the dealership, 6 days a week on average.
Right.
It's pretty much only spent in what you're doing, selling cars, managing people, doing that. You don't have a lot of that crossover. So I'm excited to hear about your background. And if you don't mind, let's ask the question. What is your origin story into automotive? Give me a little bit about your background, how you got into the car business, and how you kind of got to where you're at now.
Well, my origin story started very, very, very early. My entire family, my brother, my sisters, uncles, father, my entire family, every single one of them was in residential and commercial construction. So naturally, I spent about 30 minutes doing that and decided there was no way I was doing that and I needed to go somewhere else.
Yep.
When I was a child, my dad was a big drag racer, and I got into drag racing very, very, very early. And I think you guys have a photo of that.
We'll show that right here. Yep.
Boom.
If you look very carefully at the picture with me sitting in the driver's seat of the rail car, you can actually see what an addict looks like the moment the addiction gets them.
I love that.
I've joked with my father numerous times of why he wouldn't just let me start a drug addiction, because it would have been cheaper, it would have been better for my health, and I could have gotten a lot more done in my spare time, but right now I just don't have any as a parts manager.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. A car addiction
up till then, right, my first job out of high school, I worked at an aftermarket parts warehouse center. Got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, "We need help. You need to come down here right now. You have a job. Get here." I left work. I drove over to BMW of Sarasota in Sarasota, Florida, and I spent 11 of the best years of my life in that store, learning astronomical amounts about the industry, about not just parts, but variable as well. My last few years there, I pretty much worked on the sales floor with the salespeople, the sales manager, and just whatever it took to help someone get into the car that they wanted. That was what I was there for. If they wanted accessories right then and there, I was there to make it happen before they even got out of finance. I then left BMW, and I am now currently at Sunset Cadillac in Venice. I've been there for just under 4 years now, and I didn't think I could be in a better place than BMW until I got here. And it's good to be in a home.
Awesome.
But
yes.
Just I brought everything over with me that I took, all of the lessons I learned at BMW, I brought with me, and I've really started. And you'd mentioned about the divide, the separation between fixed and variable, and it's prevalent everywhere you go. And that was one of my very first things that I wanted to do when I came to Cadillac. Was I went straight to the sales manager, I went straight to the pre-owned manager, and I said, what do I need to do for the two of you? And just really, it's really, really, really brought our business up, and it's made working fun.
Yeah, the culture of the store, I think, is a great way to a great way to describe what you're talking about when you have that communication between departments, between fixed operations and variable, to make sure that you have communication, because you're all there for the same goal. You're all there to serve the customer. You're all there to make money for the dealership operation, and it all works together. It's all connected. Having a strong parts department that's going to serve the service department, which is going to serve the consumer, and then also the internal consumer with the dealerships, especially the used car department. I think it's paramount for success to be able to have that culture, that interdepartmental, let me see if I can do this, interdepartmental culture. That's good. That was good, right? Interdepartmental communication between all of them. I think it makes a big difference. One of the things that we've talked about on the Modern Dealer podcast, and something that I think is something that we need to kind of continue the conversation, is making the automotive industry an industry where people can look at this business as a strong career choice, whether it's in variable with sales F&I, dealership management, or in fixed operations from a tech side, a technician side or parts side, assistant service manager side. I mean, there's so many positions within a dealership. It really provides for great opportunities. So speaking of that, So I guess talking about that, how do you and what are you doing as a dealership and being part of a dealership management team to attract new people into your dealership, from technicians to parts personnel? You have some challenges with that today. I think a lot of dealerships are having challenges bringing in good quality technicians or training them. What are you guys doing in and around attracting people into the industry?
Well, the unfortunate reality is you're absolutely correct. Finding any amount of help is difficult, let alone finding good quality trained people, or even people who are willing to get excited about the automotive industry enough to even be willing to be trained. I can train anybody. I could train, a chimpanzee to bill parts out on a repair order. That's not a big deal, but I can't train somebody to be excited about coming to work and talking about cars all day long, and thinking about cars all day long, and thinking about, the mundane stuff like just parts acquisition. It's very difficult. Finding technicians is even more difficult. Just the biggest thing is trying to explain to a younger crowd of people that you're no longer really going to be a mechanic. You are more a technician. The days of putting a screwdriver in your ear and putting it on the engine to try to find a noise are gone.
Gone. Yeah. That's not how things work anymore.
At all. If you can't plug in a computer, you can't be in any of the buildings on a car dealership. It's just not going to happen. Techs are now more like IT personnel than they are actual grease monkeys of the old days. So a lot of it is getting to the technical schools, getting to the vocational schools that have automotive programs, and letting them know specifically for our dealer group that we've got 14 brands under 11 rooftops. We have opportunities for you no matter where you want an opportunity. If you want a sales opportunity, if, just because you went through technical school, if, working in a shop isn't going to be something that you want to do long term, there are more options available. But the auto industry is like the medical industry. There's always going to be a need. There's always going to be a demand for people who are talented and motivated and willing to come and do it. So the biggest thing is getting, not necessarily getting the old school people who, are from the old days, who know what they're doing and have been around the brand for, 20, 30, 40 years, which is awesome. but more getting into people who are technically driven, not necessarily automotive driven.
Yeah, I think you bring up a very good point. Being able to create the awareness, working with trade schools and other educational resources where younger people, Generation Y, Generation Z, the millennials are looking at different career paths. And I think as an industry, we have a lot of work to do to make sure people really understand that this is a great career choice. There's so many different facets to it. We talked to Lloyd Truschel about this last week?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we talked to Lloyd Truschel about this, where he wrote an article in F&I and Showroom magazine about the differences between a traditional career path of going to college, going to law school, for example, to become an attorney and what that looks like as a career choice, or looking at automotive as a way to gain experience. And I think he did a really great job of kind of showing the benefits of somebody choosing automotive as a career choice. And that was more from a variable side versus a fixed side. But I think we as an industry have to do a better job. Another thing that we talked about, if you remember a few weeks back, is identifying that not only do we have external customers, customers that we need to bring in for service, for retail parts,
Right.
for selling of new and used vehicles, but we also have the internal customers that
Used car department.
yeah, and individual employees, looking at them as that internal customer, where we have to have that internal customer satisfaction, right? Your team, your employees, your techs, the salespeople. I think we have, as an industry, we have a long way to go to just make sure that we're communicating how great the car business is.
Right. So you had you've been in the industry for, I think, about 17, 18 years?
I started September of 2005.
2005. So you got 15 years in the
year.
industry. So from the time you started, I mean, what is like one of the biggest sticking points of evolution you've seen from your point of view, from the parts and service department?
It's been technology based. It's all been technology based. I remember being a kid with my dad drag racing, going into an auto parts store, and it looked like somebody's garage. Like there was just stuff everywhere. If you asked the guy behind the counter for something, he'd put his hand on his chin and he'd look up to the sky for a minute and he'd go, "Hold on a second," and he'd get up and he'd walk to the back. And you'd be standing there about 10 minutes, then he'd come out with it and go, "Here you go." But those days are long gone now. Now you have infinite amounts of parts that are just minutely different. It's so incredibly specific that, I actually made the joke that you go into an auto parts store asking for an air freshener and they ask you if you've got a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder engine.
Right, yeah, because that's the first thing you're going to do is you have to look up the part, right?
I can hear you guys.
All right.
There we go. There we go.
All right.
You're back with us.
You disappeared for a second.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to Wi-Fi signal from the store behind me here, and it's not working too well.
No worries. No worries. We know that we kind of took you out of your normal day-to-day, so you're just trying to jump in and spend some time with us kind of ad hoc. So we appreciate it very much.
So I was one other thing I was just curious about is do you feel a lot of competition now from Amazon and other places? You got customers probably walking into service and saying, "What can you do?" or in parts?
Honestly, the internet and internet sales is an animal that just has to be embraced. It has to be embraced and loved and catered to. If somebody comes in with a quote, internet, it has to.
It has to.
From our standpoint,
Yep.
It has to.
If somebody
comes in with a quote from the internet, go ahead.
I was just say, so what I've seen from kind of a real world perspective of car dealerships and parts, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. And this is more of, less about the car business and employees and so on, but just kind of like real world shit, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to buy so if you've been watching the Modern Dealer podcast, we talked a few months ago about me going through the process of purchasing a vehicle for my daughter. We leased a Corolla. She's up finishing her school up in Minnesota. Of course, Minnesota winters, I mean, it's messy, right?
Brutal.
For Christmas, we wanted to get her some all-weather mats. Right? So we just want to get some factory all-weather mats that were made for her car. So what do? We go online. We try to find factory parts to be able to order and ship to her for a Christmas gift. So, of course, there's nothing on Amazon. There's no factory parts on Amazon, or we've not been able to find them. You Google them, and you really can't find any factory parts online, or at least, again, we had a challenge doing it. So we had to go directly to car dealership websites, and the local Toyota dealership, there's no way to look and search for parts online or buy a part online. So we had to go to the nearest Toyota dealership. And in her case, since she's in southern Minnesota, it's like 100 miles away. And we had to pick up the phone and make an order for a set of floor mats and get them shipped. It was a crazy ordeal. It was nothing like buying anything else. So I think that most car dealers, are probably kind of in that same boat. And maybe I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear that I am, that that your dealership and your dealership group and or other dealerships are really embracing internet from a way to sell parts and or to be more transparent in the pricing. I mean, from a price standpoint, I wouldn't care if I had to spend a little bit more to get a factory part. Because that's what I'm looking for. So it's not a price issue, but the convenience. Was horrible. So, so tell me from your perspective, how important is retail parts? How important, are you having an easy way of making a parts transaction as easy it is to buy a cup of coffee? Or as easy it is to order a phone from AT&T? What's your perspective of retail parts and the internet?
That experience that you had with that right there is the reason why it is so important, because that mentality, that idea is going to make a dealership go extinct.
Yep.
Because people don't tolerate it now from any other industry. Why in the world would they tolerate it from a car manufacturer? It's preposterous. And the easiest way, the quickest way that I've found to negate that, if somebody calls me and says, hey, how much is this part? Doesn't matter what the part is. I give them the price. They say, I found it on the internet on this site for whatever. If it's cheaper, they say, will I match it? I say, let me do you one better. Give me the website, email me the link, whatever you want to do. I'll buy it for you from that website. I'll order it. I'll go through all the bullshit of getting it delivered to me. I'll call you when I get it. You just come pick it up from me. Or if you want, I'll mail it to you. On the back end, I'm going on that website. I'm contacting some kind of an administrator, and I'm getting set up as a vendor from that website. So now I can offer what the website can, price-wise, shipping-wise, to any one of my customers who contacts me. It's a quick way of saying, listen, I've got you covered.
Yep.
Go be with your daughter, do whatever you want to do. I don't worry about a set of floor mats. That's my job.
Yeah.
Well said.
With that said,
yeah.
it's gonna.
That's awesome.
I mean,
awesome.
it is, but that's the kind of thinking that's got to get us into 2020, and it's going to get us into this massive revolution of technology that's happening. At some point, Amazon is going to get into the new car parts business. I think right now they've managed to, the manufacturers have managed to kind of keep them at bay enough, but it's not long before the floodgates let go, and I'm not going to lose all my business to Amazon. I'm not going to let it happen. I'm either going to get on the boat when the river, when the dam breaks, or I'm going to watch other people get swept away.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that you can't now, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of being patient. And if we plan on staying in this industry and staying relevant in this industry, we're going to have to accept it and adapt to it.
Very good point. So we're coming up on 27 minutes on the Modern Dealer podcast clock, so we're gonna have to take a break here in just a moment. So when we get back, I want to we can talk a little bit further around the disruptions to the automotive parts industry. We've talked a little bit about the disruptions to the auto retail industry and some of the disruptions where there is an opportunity for companies like Amazon to come in and say, hey, you guys are doing a shit job. We're going to do it better, and we're going to take that business from you. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to get into a little bit more information. Stay tuned.
Buying a car should be easy. Say hello to Shopper Express, the way car buying should be. With Shopper Express, once you find your car, you can get our best price up front with no hassles. You can personalize your individual payment by selecting from financing or leasing options. Select your desired finance or lease term, adjust your down payment, even research all the available offers, rebates, and incentives, and then apply them to your deal. You can get a personalized trade-in value from Kelley Blue Book instantly. And in just minutes, you can get an express cash offer for your trade-in that's good for 7 days. Plus, research and select available protection plans. You can apply for financing and even get your credit score without your social security number. Configure your entire purchase transaction from anywhere in just minutes. Schedule an express delivery, so when you're ready to buy, you can be in and out in an hour or less, or request to have your next car delivered to you. Enjoy a better way to buy a car with Shopper Express.
Welcome back into Modern Dealer Podcast, episode 029. We have very special guests. We are talking fixed operations, and we're going to move the conversation into accessories. And I know we were chatting during the break, and I did get a new coffee during the break. Nice hot cup of Starbucks dark blend. What are you drinking today, David? I think we missed it earlier.
I was grassroots, and then I ran out of the old grassroots, and I upped to... I always get a little extra coffee when I'm here just to keep me rolling through. But I did actually pick up a Monster because our guest today, man, Phil, you are a beast in the industry. You're a monster when it comes to making things happen. And we appreciate you being on today, man. You really, really appreciate you.
So one of the things we were just chatting with on the break is my last foray into retail was starting an Open Point Toyota dealership, and one of the things that was extremely important to me is make sure that we had a really strong culture and that we had a lot of conversation and connections between sales and fixed operation, or variable and fixed, and making sure that we incorporated the parts department and the accessories department into the sales process. So anytime a customer purchased a vehicle, before they would go into F&I, we would have somebody from our accessories department sit with the customer and go through an accessories presentation, touch base with them. How do you want to customize your vehicle? We created some great electronic guides to be able to show the different products, feature, function, benefit presentations of those products. So is that something that you've incorporated into your internal sales process at the dealership? Because I know that's extremely important to the Cadillac brand, is the customization, and that really creates for a huge profit opportunity. So let's talk a little bit about that accessories sales process.
Well, I've actually got a kind of an interesting story about that. It comes down to the day that David Bertoncini and I actually met. So to answer your question, the sales personnel can't always be on the parts websites I definitely can't be up on the sales floor. I don't know what the salespeople need. They don't know what I have. So to steal the line from David, the day he and I met, he looked me right in the face and said something nobody else has ever said to me before as a manager. He said, "How do you want to do business with me?" And I was floored. I was guaranteed I wasn't letting go of this dude no matter what.
Awesome.
So I
love
thought
it.
to myself,
That's fantastic.
How can I, so I thought, how can I take that lesson that I learned from him and kind of bring it with me into the dealership? So what I did was I went up to the sales floor. I told the salespeople, I opened up a line of communication. I said, I don't know your customers. Nobody knows your customers the way you guys do. You tell me what you want. You tell me what you're going to put in cars, and I will make sure that I have it to a point where you can confidently tell your customer that they will get what they want in their car, and I have it in stock, no questions asked. That takes all the responsibility away from them for having to worry about it. Somebody says they want floor mats, absolutely. They want a rear cargo liner, absolutely. You want roof rails, and you live in a huge biking community, you're going to sell an SUV that's got rails on it. You bet I'm going to have those in stock, and I'm going to make sure that your customer is going to leave there with their bike on top of their car that day.
One of the things that I think that's fantastic. So I appreciate that. And I love this. Shout out to David B. I love it, right? It's good stuff.
Thanks, boss. I appreciate that. What are you, 20 on the side?
What's cool... yeah, whatever is going to be. What's cool about that is you don't know the people that you are going to have an impact on when you just have casual conversations. I mean, it was a lot of experience went up to that point for you, and how you learned to be able to even, make that small little point. And it's interesting that he probably said that to 10 other managers. There's probably only one of them that actually said, you know what, that makes sense to me, that resonates. This is something that I can do and really bring value to my career and my business by making sure that I have a way to really build value within the dealership and make a connection with the other managers and other departments. So I think that is I think that really encapsulates the culture that fixed operation and variable operations needs to cultivate within the store, is to be able to be there for them and help them do their job better.
One thing I had noticed, and Phil and I had met, on a as a vendor to the store, but one thing I would have to say is to everyone watching and every dealer out there to understand the opportunity that on the front end, we're going to lose money when we sell a new car. I mean, it's basically guaranteed we're going to lose money based upon, every True Car, every Costco customer, every customer coming in with the price already. And that's fine. We've accepted that as an industry, but the help we can get from parts and services, like how do we accessorize our vehicles to try to get back, if we get back to zero at, just no profit, we're profitable at zero. And, having the right mix of parts and service available. The nice thing is the culture of the store that you've created at your dealership is that you've combined, that relationship that a lot of stores don't have, which, I set foot into hundreds of dealerships meeting with GMs and their operations and such, and it's very, very few and far between that they've, decided that we're going to make up our losses in parts and accessories, but parts and accessories that make sense. We can't be in the days of throwing a pinstripe on a car and saying, hey, that's a $500 pinstripe because it's hand painted, which I don't think there's very many pinstripes that are still hand painted. And if there are, good luck to you. But it's really not something that a customer wants. So you've done a great job by keeping in stock. You're in Venice, Florida. There's a lot of retirees, like you said, the bike racks, having things that make sense that a customer is going to want on their vehicle when they leave. And, stores that actually do preloads and stuff. I always told a salesperson, I was like, hey, we've had preloads when we're at AutoNation. Like we had, it was appearance protection and theft protection, which was things the customer really couldn't see. It was just basically an insurance policy. But I always told every salesperson and every parts manager, every service manager, it's like, hey, put that addendum on your vehicle. That's the only way that new cars is going to be profitable. It's going to be internally profitable to the dealership. But one of the biggest things that I would always tell a salesperson to tell their customers, like, these items that we preloaded on the vehicle is our number one selling items in the first 90 days. Customers come to our parts department, they ask for window tint and door edge guards and rain guards and windshield protection for the vehicle. That this is what we sell mostly. So we made it as a package for you, offered you a discount, and this is the best way to purchase it. So I appreciate your involvement with the front end and making that culture of the store just commingle so much better. And there's not many guys out there like you. That's why I said, I'd love to have you on the show, just because there's not many people that were forward thinking. And like you said in the first segment, man, it's just like, you have to embrace the change. And you've done a great job, man. Just keep it up, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was actually very early on. I had a conversation with my pre-owned manager. I took from a very, very seasoned manager. He'd been running the place for 15 years. So I came in, this young guy, into an older person's business. And
so if you're watching the podcast right now, you're seeing that we continue to have a little bit of difficulty. So we apologize not being able to have a good, strong connection here. So we lost them again, which is okay. This is a live recorded show. We're going to get him back in a minute. I know the point that he was trying to make was that as he moved into the position he was at the dealership, he sat down with the pre-owned manager who had been existing there for quite some time. And, how can I add value? How can the parts department serve and help you do your job better? Creating that culture. So I know that we're running 10 minutes into our second segment. There's the beginning of the podcast, it was like, there's so many things I want to talk about. I want to talk about bringing new people into the car business and how that works for fixed operations versus variable operations. There's actually another article that I just recently read on Automotive News. Somebody from Google saying, what can car dealerships learn from Google? And they had this 20% time rule where Google gives their employees 20% of the time to work on an off project or an off-task project. So I'm going to include that link in the show notes. It's really kind of a cool little article. But as always, we never get through everything that we want to talk about on the podcast, but it is a great time for us to be able to connect and just share and talk about a few things. So as we kind of gear up for ending up this episode, was there any words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience, the Modern Dealer podcast, about your career, about what you do on a day-to-day, maybe some of the things that you thought you might want to share as being a guest on our show today?
I would like to share a quote from one of my mentors. You mentioned internal customers. His words were, a customer is anybody who comes to you for a product, a service, or counsel. Anybody who fits those criteria, which if you look at it, it's absolutely everyone. If you treat everyone like a customer, no matter who they are, you are treating them the way you would want to be treated, and that's the absolute best way possible.
That is awesome. I love that. When you are a manager in automotive, and I think most of the people that are watching our podcast, they either are managers or they want to be managers, and they want to grow with it in the dealership. And I think one thing that I've taken throughout my career in automotive, in managing people, is that really understanding where they're coming from, their perspective. Especially you think about salespeople that are new to the business and we're training them, and we kind of in many cases, we have this kind of expectation that they know what they're doing. And the reality is that they don't. And most dealerships really don't have a very strong training process to really groom people. And as managers, we got 18 things going at any given time. And, so I think one thing that I've done well in my career is understanding that when somebody comes to me and is asking me a question, that it's my duty to stop what I'm doing, pay attention, be kind to that person, help them, with whatever their situation is. I just seen it so many times where, we joke about it, where you take your phone, get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? But the reality is, I think that what you just said, that quote, I think is absolutely fantastic. And as managers in automotive, I think that we can do a better job with that. So that puts us at 14 minutes into our last segment of the Modern Dealer Podcast. I know that we like to wrap up a couple things real quick as we move forward in 2020. And the first thing is Bert's 3 tips.
All right. So first thing is I gotta thank Phil for being on the show. I took away actually a lot of good information from him. One of the biggest things was he had said earlier. My first tip is actually, not just matching that price for that customer on that part, but actually buying it, stocking it at the store, and telling the customer, hey, if you want to come by and pick it up, that'd be great. Get the chance to meet you, or have it delivered to your house for you, so you don't have to go through any of the trouble, and just making it easy for that customer to spend more time with his family. Secondly, is something that you did at your old store. There was menuing customers that are, before they go into F&I, having somebody from parts, the department and accessories department going up with a menu already and showing the customer, hey, Mr. Customer, here's some items already coming on your vehicle, but these are for this this XT5. This is some of the most popular items that are being added to the vehicle, and this package, this package, this package. So menu somebody before they go into F&I with those additional accessories.
Great point.
A way to get you on the plus side. You got the 0, now you got to get to the plus side of the profitability. And of course, maximizing, my third tip is maximizing your front end profit by adding accessories to a vehicle to get you at least back to 0. So that's a couple ways just to help maximize the front end. It helps you internally with your parts, with your service. It feeds the beast. So,
one of the things we talked about last week, David, was adding a little piece of Google Analytics to each episode, so our viewers can take one little nugget and kind of inspect this, week to week. So for our Analytics Insights 2020, I want to talk about assisted conversions and specifically custom channel grouping. Now, this is not designed to be a how to do this, but really to kind of just to highlight something that you can do in Google Analytics. And if anybody wants to know how to do it, give me a call. I'll be happy to show you exactly what you need to do, where you need to do it. But so assisted conversions and custom channel groupings, what this allows you to do is identify where all of your traffic is coming from and what happens on the dealership's website. And it's assisted conversions because once a customer comes to your dealership website and they complete some sort of action, that's considered a conversion. Let's just say that it is a lead form that's completed for a price request. So that is the conversion that took place on the site. Now that customer may have came from YouTube, or it came from AutoTrader, or it came from a Google search, and maybe that customer came to your website, left your site, came back through a link that they clicked on from cars.com, and then ultimately converted into a lead on your dealership's website. So that idea is assisted conversions, that you can't just give all of the value of that conversion to cars.com because that was the last place that they clicked, but maybe the Google ad also. So assisted conversion allows you to look at multiple, one person coming into the site from multiple sources over time and then completing that conversion, and shares the value of that conversion. Custom channel grouping allows you to identify and kind of tag where that traffic is coming from. So I can actually look at an assisted conversion report and see where all my valuable traffic is coming from, regardless if they came there first, second, or last. So if you want to get some specifics on that, go to YouTube and just type in custom channel grouping Google Analytics. There's going to be a bunch of how-to videos, but that's something that for our Google Insights 2020, assisted conversions and custom channel groupings. So with that note, I'm going to say, actually, you're about to say it?
Well, I was going to tell Phil, it's just like if somebody actually had called went to a site, was looking for a part, couldn't find it, and they called the parts manager. If they call Phil and it's like, hey, can you help me out with that? That would almost kind of be in the realm of thing,
right? Yeah.
An assisted conversion, because you would assist them into purchasing a part. So that would be our Google Analytics, tip of the day right there. So be good stuff. But hey, I want to thank you again for taking time. I know you took your lunch break to talk with us and to be a part of the show. I appreciate you skipping and fasting today, but hey, man, I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a blast for us, and it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on the Modern Dealer Podcast, episode 029. 029? Oh, my goodness. I lost my mind. Like I said, that's one take. We don't edit, so bloop, that was my blooper.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys both very much. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I could be of service.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. And for
David.
And David, it's a wrap.
Ew, no, David.